What's good, folks? It's Frame here with a new Warframe video, coming at you with a very controversial build. People are going to start freaking out. I would just like you to remain calm. And again, this might trigger some people, but guess what? Nobody cares. It's a friggin' video game. Have fun, try things, experiment, see what you can do. And for those who hear what's going to happen and then just say, I'm leaving. Well, doesn't really matter. Your loss. But for those who are going to stick around, you might learn something pretty interesting. This build combines a lot of synergies, allowing you to do a lot of damage. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? Okay. I took Mirage's Eclipse. Ooh, it's getting there. And replaced it with Zata's Whisper. Oh, yeah. I just can't wait to see the little angry kids in the comments. You removed my favorite ability. Now Mirage is unplayable. Shut up. Zata's Whisper will imbue your weapons with void damage. Void damage is a neutral damage type that doesn't have any bonuses or weaknesses, and it is not true damage. Zata's Whisper deals a separate instance of damage and does not combine with any of your weapon's base or modded elements. It scales off power strength and a percentage of your weapon's total damage, and it also scales from equipped mods. So base damage and critical multiplier, elemental mods, and faction damage bonus will also be factored to your damage output. And faction mods apply to your weapon's damage, and that damage will be multiplied a second time, making it double dip. And any other damage buffs or multipliers that affect your weapon will also affect the damage output Zata's Whisper will do. Pretty much a vicious cycle of damage. Take a shot every time I say damage. I will be also utilizing the void status effect that Zata's Whisper here provides. Any part of the body shot with void will create a small bubble around that area and have projectiles redirected to the initial point of impact. Meaning, shoot the head, bullets will be redirected to the head. Now I'll be combining this with Mirage's holograms and the TENET TETRA. The TETRA augment kinetic ricochet will have bullets ricochet off of surfaces, effectively making this weapon an AoE weapon with its primary fire. And the ricocheted projectiles can also be trapped within the void bubble created by Zata's Whisper, orbiting and dealing damage to the enemy that was captured by the void bubble. And once the enemy dies and the bubble disappears, the projectiles will burst out, hitting other enemies. And those projectiles that left the bubble can create more void bubbles, attracting more bullets. And how does Hall of Mirrors work with this? Well, the total damage the holograms deal will be distributed among them, which scales of power strength. And each hologram will deal a percentage of the weapon's total damage. And the holograms will also be using your weapon's mods. And on top of that, I'll be using the augment called Hall of Malevolence, which will give my holograms a 50% multiplicative damage buff. Unfortunately, this is not affected by power strength. To trigger this augment, all you have to do is kill. That's pretty much it. And it stacks up to 50%. And in turn, will also deal more damage with Zata's Whisper. Yes, Eclipse is a straight up damage boost, but it's very inconsistent depending on your surroundings. Because for one, you need to have certain settings enabled, disabled. Depending on the intensity of the light, you will have a diminished damage multiplier, but still a great damage multiplier nonetheless. So Zata's Whisper is more consistent and synergizes with Mirage, especially when using the TENET TETRA. Alright, let me just show you how this synergy works. Alright, when we shoot, you see all the little projectiles orbiting around him. And when they disperse, they will ricochet and trigger more bubbles. So the more you shoot, they disperse. Well, if they actually proc on another enemy, they will proc more bubbles. Oh, it reprocced on the guy right behind him. Look at that. And usually in Eclipse, if you're within a dark area, like for example this one, will be getting a 95% damage reduction instead of a damage multiplier. So Zata's Whisper is a lot more consistent. Shoot. We don't even have our merciless stacks built up, and we're still getting that damage because of her first ability and Zata's Whisper. The more we kill, the more we're building up Hall of Malevolence. And here's another cool thing that this combination can do when you're up against Sentinels. Zata's Whisper will remove any of the adaptive properties that the Sentients have. Look at that. It's not adapting to anything. All right, let's take a look at the TENET, TETRA, and Mirage builds. Starting off with Mirage. Brief respite in the aura for the energy to shield conversion. Basically, when the shields break, cast an ability and get shields back, refreshing your shield gate instance. Prime Sure-Footed. Spending less time on your butt is a huge DPS increase, but you can always replace this with Handspring. And since this build doesn't knock you down, unlike using the Brahma, you really don't have to worry too much about not having Prime Sure-Footed. And Handspring is just there in case you encounter enemies that will knock you down. Duration at 226% with Narrow-Minded and Primed Continuity. This gives me 79 seconds on Zata's Whisper and 64 seconds on Hall of Mirrors. Power strength at 322% with Transient, Augur, Blind Rage, and Umbral Intensify. This will boost my Zata's Whisper's damage and Hall of Mirrors damage output as well. Rolling Guard for the 3 seconds of vulnerability after a dodge roll. This will cleanse me of status effects as well. And of course, the Augment, Hall of Malevolence. Arcane Acceleration for the increase fire rates. This basically increases my DPS even more. The TENET TETRA is bonus toxin, so that means we only have to put one elemental mod, which will then turn my damage to viral. Pair viral up with hunter munitions. Remember, this is raw elemental damage, which can also boost Zata's Whisper damage output. You have your crit chance, crit damage, multi-shot, faction damage, fire rate. Again, you can use Vile Acceleration if you don't have Prime Shred. This is just there for fire rate and the punch through. The punch through just makes the ricochets so much more devastating. Kinetic Ricochet, this is the augment. You can get this from, I think, Index. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then Vigilante Supplies. This will give you ammo back and will increase your crits on primary. Our base damage multiplier is coming from primary Merciless, meaning you do not need to put Serration or Heavy Caliber. Remember, these two are the same multiplier as Merciless, meaning they'll be additive to each other, and stacking too much of the same multiplier will give you diminishing returns. Basically, too much of one thing will give you little increase in damage. And the melee and secondary are just utility. You can use whatever secondary you want, doesn't really matter. The melee here is Vassalok. Why? Just for the armor strip if you're up against Acolytes. Bunch of attack speed mods and Shattering Impact. This will allow me to armor strip. Vazarin is there for the survivability with Protective Dash. Dash into yourself and will grant you 5 seconds of invulnerability. This build was a variation of Liam XP's build. If you don't know who it is, go check him out on Twitch. Just prepare yourself, because if you're a Papega, your feelings will get hurt. And guess what? Twitch ain't Twitter, so nobody cares about your feelings. Anyway, if you've enjoyed and learned something from this video, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.